Habari gani? Okay, sawa sawa. Endeleeni tu. It's beautiful. He has allowed me to take a picture, guys. He's walking the horses. If they're not walking horses, they're walking dogs. Very kind guy. So I'm out again this morning, guys. I'm listening to horror stories, but I'm listening to men discussing their problems with women. And I really want to understand why it is that there's so much division, such divisionary tactic, such a difficult, what we say, relationship going on between men and women. Why men have decided to become so violent emotionally towards women. You know, our country is full of femicide, guys. Today is a Sunday. I'm walking outside. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Maureen, and I'm running Mo's Lifestyles. And I'm enjoying, walking around. It's like a nice spot to stand in. Well, guys, these things happen when you're recording on the road. I realized there's a part that I thought I was recording but did not record. And it was important because I was starting off the video with a story of a gentleman who was being interviewed by one of the followers of the Manosphere from Kenya. Actually, he's a Kenyan, and obviously he's a good follower of the Manosphere and the Red Pill movement and all that. And the young man was narrating his story. He's 29 as he speaks, but he was narrating a story about his experience when he was only 23 years old, and that just goes to show you what kind of a grudge he's keeping. How many years later? 6 years later, it was still an issue for him. Literally, he found a girl who was very young, mwanamke mchanga, very young, and not just young, but naive and innocent. Those are the words, you know. When you're mchanga, it means that you are innocent and young and unexposed. And this girl, he apparently, because he was born, uh, she was about 6 years younger than him when he was 23. So 6 years younger than 23 is how old? Are we talking about a 17-year-old or 16-year-old, or what are we talking about? 17 plus 6? Yeah, so she was 17. That means she was underage and he was 23. Let's not even talk about that. But anyway, he said that he deliberately targeted her because he wanted a woman or a girl who was unexposed, who didn't come with baggage and who didn't really know much and who wouldn't give him a problem and all those kinds of things, you know, what most men would say that they want. They want these very naive girls, yeah? Girls who are not exposed, girls young. I can call them girls because they're not women yet, you know. 17-year-old is not really a woman. She's still a young girl, still a girl. And so he targeted her and he said that he got her in his box. Very derogatory language, you know. He literally boxed her, you know. Basically, it's almost like a trap, isn't it? Yeah. So he trapped her and he's very proud of it and they started living together. Then one fine day, she got what he called a ball. So alipata ball. Alipata ball means she got pregnant, right? So you know the stomach becomes a ball. So he said alipata ball. So alipata ball means that she got pregnant. He didn't say I got her pregnant. No, she got pregnant. Yeah. So alipata ball. And then uh, after I don't know what happened. And the thing that he said that was really shocking me and very annoying was the fact that he said that when he got her, he didn't realize that her mother was selling alcohol in a pub because she was a single parent. And he was saying that, well, you know, I came from a two-parent family and she was from a single parent family and her mother was selling in a bar. I didn't realize this when I met her. You know, you're talking about the mother of your wife, the mother of the girl you say you love. And the only thing you see in that woman, even if she raised that girl that you love now, you just see her as somebody who was selling in a pub. Okay, so let's not even dwell on that because that was already pissing me off. And then he says, "Yeah, you know me. I came from a two-parent family, and the way I saw my father and my mother engage is not the way I ended up engaging with my girl, and we started having problems. And then she found out that I was dating another woman. So the interviewer stopped him and he says, "Hey, hey, hey, wait a minute. So we're dating another woman when?" Was that before? He puts the words in his mouth. He said, is this before you met her or while you were still with her? Though he says, oh, no, no, no. What I meant to say was, before I was with her, she discovered that I was with another woman before her. That's what I meant to say. I said to myself, already I could see he was lying. So this girl went back to her mother, and her mother said, look, you should not be with a man like this one. Number one, you're pregnant and he's dating another woman. I don't think you should be with this type of a man. For a woman who has been selling in a bar, she has experience with men. She knows what men are. She knows what kind of men she sees in the bar. So I know she would be the best advisor for her own daughter. But this man says that she's the one who caused the relationship to split. So the girl moved out of the house and went to stay with her mother. I don't know what happened eventually, that the girl eventually, and then he says, but I really loved that girl. I really loved her. I tried to reach out to her and she was like, no, no, no more. Then all of a sudden, a few years later, she came back and apologized and she wanted him back. And he said, my problem is I still loved her so much. So I got into her box. Nikaingia, pia mimi nikaingia box. So even him, he got trapped. So here's the interviewer. This is what the interviewer says. So he said, so the problem is that what? That you were in love is not a problem. Is that you are weak. Is that you are actually weak. What you are demonstrating is weakness. And then he says, yeah, actually, I was very weak. I admit that those were the days when I was very naive and I was very weak. And yeah, so I was in love for not, I was in love. So I said to myself, so what you guys see as a relationship, when you see a man loving a woman, you see that man as weak. If you see a man who's married to a woman, you see that man as weak. Yet this is exactly what you're desiring and are unable to get. So I didn't bother listening to the rest of that video because already I was triggered. I felt so triggered by this, guys, because I said, God, is this how people view relationships? Is this how people view marriage? Is this how people view? You know what? I feel like this manosphere is one of the most harmful, demonic cults. I can call it a cult. The manosphere is a demonic cult, guys. Because if you think about it, the people who are in the manosphere are some of the loneliest people ever. One of them was Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels is the one who defined these terms low value women and high value man. Like, what kind of a person would call a person a high value man or a low value person? What kind of person thinks like that? Where were they even brought up? Guys, it's shocking. For me, it's too much. I can just be honest and tell you, I can't tolerate that. And for me, a man who speaks like that about women, a man who speaks like that about his wife, about his girlfriend, about the mother of his child, not worth it. And then right now, I came across a lady who's a Gen X advising women. I believe she's an advisor and she's a therapist. And she was advising girls who are single and wanting to hitch up and wanting to be partnered. She said, those girls who are dating, those young ladies who are dating, or those women who are dating, she just wanted to tell them that, the patriarchy has made us believe, or made you believe, that the problem is that you're selecting wrong. But the truth is that you're selecting from an infected pool. The pool of suitable partners is growing narrower and narrower. And majority of the pools are infected. These are pools that are full of people who are already mentally unwell, emotionally not ready to be partnered. I would say the same, not just for women, but also for a lot of men. There's a lot of toxic environment. People are in toxic environments. People are toxic at the moment. There's a lot of toxicity. And unfortunately, the fact that people are always on their phones means that they haven't even learned to communicate. People are they have their eyes behind their phone. They don't even recognize anybody. They don't greet anybody. They don't greet anymore. They don't talk anymore. And yet they're so lonely. So as a Gen X myself, I can also say it's really a pity. It's a pity that we have such men now talking about women in this way. And a lot of those men who are speaking like that are also Generation X. They're part of my generation. Those men who are acting as mentors and therapists to young men, be careful. And especially if he's going to talk about it in a derogatory manner. Because one person also called in and said that his therapist is a father, a Catholic priest. And this guy, went berated, went crazy and said, but what do you mean that he's a father? Father to who? Is he married? Has he ever been married? Does he have a wife? Was Jesus ever married? Is God married? So who are those people to even tell you anything about women? I mean, this is how toxic things have become, you people. So I just wish us all the best, because let me tell you, it makes us feel, those of us who are married and who even married late, even someone like myself, you start wondering, my God, what kind of things are your partners exposed to? And will they be strong enough to resist? Because it is bad out here. It is mbaya, mbaya, mbaya. So anyway, like I was saying, he agrees to allow the lady back into his life. He was working a good job, and he says the business that he wanted to keep for her was one of selling shoes, because he had about 300,000 shillings saved. I'm like, oh yeah, so you had 300,000 shillings saved, and you decided that you want to keep a business of selling shoes for your wife. I wonder to what extent that woman even contributed, or even had any say about the type of business that he was going to keep for her. Or was it just that because he had the money and he was older, he would determine what business he kept for her? He would have the final say. And the kind of man who controls you doesn't allow you to be, doesn't allow you, to express yourself. All of us came into this world, and we don't know how we came, but each one of us has a mission. But some people just want to control. They feel the only way that they can be happy is if they control you. So as you can see, I'm getting very agitated by this story. I'm telling the story, I'm trying to listen to it, and it's not easy. But one of the things that he just said, and I don't think I'm going to listen to the whole story, but it's so irritating anyway. One of the things he says is that, he allowed her back in his life, and when asked why, he said because the problem is that he was still in love with her. And this guy says, it's not a problem, it's a weakness. And so this guy agrees and says, yes, it's a weakness. I was weak because I was in love with her. So I'm like, so being in love with somebody means that you're weak? Does it mean that if you love someone, you are weak? Is that what it means? Yeah? Does it mean that you're weak because you love someone? Does it mean because you're weak? Yeah? So the issue is, um, it's very weird. It's a very, very weird way of looking at things, that if a man falls in love with you in Kenya, he will be considered weak. Weak, W-E-A-K, weak. I'll tell you what, at the same time, this morning I listened to this guy called Big Ward, and he also said something very interesting. He's somebody that I actually follow and I really like. But this is what he said. He was talking about a man who called in and was telling him a story about his wife leaving him because he couldn't get it up. As you understand what I mean. This is the conclusion. Women can give up their families for their happiness, but men give up their happiness for their families. Think about that. Is it true? Men give up their happiness for their families, and women give up their families for their happiness. There's a story I talked about yesterday. Maybe if you go watch it, yesterday's walk, today's day 4, day 3 walk, I talked about this young lady who got married when she was very, very young, and her husband had a mental condition. And she came to social media seeking support, trying to find a way to get her husband back. And I tagged the video itself, which was in Swahili, on there. This woman traveled to a place she had never been before just to look for her husband. When he got lost, he no longer he stopped calling her, and he was a very loving husband. He used to care for her, but he wasn't rich, and neither was she, but she was in love with him, and she was worried about him, and she was wondering where he was. And this woman went out of her way, buying him clothes, cleaning him up, traveling with him in public transport, with him and his sack full of flies when he was found in a rubbish dump in Nairobi. When he finally came back and he ended up in a rubbish dump, she still went looking for him, and she still told the children to pray. The children are praying, where's our dad, where's our dad? And she kept saying, pray for your dad, pray for your dad, you know guys, my knee is feeling so much better today. So my question is this: why are men even discussing women if they don't want them? Do you guys ever ask yourself that question? Why do men even discuss wives and marriage? So these men have decided they're not getting married anymore. They just want wham bang, thank you, ma'am, relationships. All women have been put into that same box. Now, here is my question for you today, because this is the story that I'm picking up now. There's another guy, a British guy, that I'm following. You guys need to go follow his videos. It's very interesting. He's actually experienced a divorce. He's sharing his feelings and emotions live, literally live, in real time, you know? You can feel it. In fact, the first video that I watched, I actually cried. I shed tears because of how he was feeling. For the first time in my life, I could understand how a man feels. Yeah, or how a loving man, a man who's truly in love with his wife, feels when she decides to divorce him, when she decides to file for divorce. And he expressed his pain about the letter that was sent. He said it was a very cold letter that was actually sent by the authorities, and that named even the place where they were where they met or where they got married and all that. And you see, that kind of brings memories for him, because all of us are attached. Most of us who are married, we are attached to the places that we were married. We are attached to that. And so it's painful when somebody just talks about it, and just talks about it like that. Let me take a picture first before I forget. Okay, I've taken at least a photo. Sometimes I forget to take photos of these places because they're so beautiful. So much to see. See those beautiful plants. I was just talking about how we should appreciate nature, and how, people in Kenya really love floriculture, and how, we should care. Even if we have just bush, it's still good for us, because you see, we can kind of create a microclimate. This place used to be very, very, very dry. But since people started planting trees, makes a very big difference in terms of how, the weather here changed a lot. The climate changed. Yeah, it's quite quiet today. It's not like yesterday, Saturday. Oh my God, it was bad. Today is quite okay, not bad at all, even if I came out a little bit later. And the nicest thing is that it's not that uh, it's also not hot, so the weather is comfortable. I can walk. Okay, let's get back to that story now. So now the question I'm asking myself is this: why is it that men seem to be so anti-women, and yet they can't seem to do without women either? Yeah, do you ever ask yourselves that question, you people? What is going on between men and female relationships? So, like I was telling you, that I was listening to Big Word, and he talked about a story about a man who called him, very upset because his wife of many years, I think it was 13 years, yeah, they'd been married like 13 years, was leaving because he couldn't get it up anymore. And she left. She filed for divorce. And I also told you the story about this guy called Greg, who I'm also following. He's a British guy. I don't know why these are actually recommended to me. Maybe because I like to listen and like to understand relationships and people's relationships. I really do. So I was listening to that story, to those two stories today. And Big Word said that, to my great disappointment, that men seem to have, let's just say, Big Word, like many men, I should say, said or would think or would assume that women are only interested in a transactional relationship with men. In other words, and the transaction is only financial, by the way. That's what many of these men believe. First of all, men always tell women not to generalize. Don't generalize. If you have an experience with one man, don't generalize it and think that that's how it is with all men, right? For me, who was a single mother, it was very difficult not to generalize and think that every single man is the same. And as we talk, We have some people who are hiding in the trees. Hi guys, are you coming to my house? Eh? Yeah, there it is. They're hiding away. They're a bit shy. Must be female. The females are the ones that are shy usually. There's a monkey. Take a picture. So people, what I realize is that a lot of people are desperate. They need relationships. All these men have said that they're only just going to be in relationships with themselves, and they're only going to have transactional relationships with girlfriends. They are not going to agree to be so-called used by women. Yeah. They're not going to agree to be used by women, and they're all going to be in transactional relationships, and they don't care. To me, they sound like men with no morals. And as women, I can tell you, any woman who is supporting, because I heard a woman actually say that, she supports the manosphere. She supports these kinds of men. The king of the manosphere was Kevin Samuels, and he died. And you know how he died? He died in the arms of what he called the low value woman. These are the people who introduced the subjects of high value men. He thought he obviously assumed that he was a high value man, but he died in the hands of a prostitute. These are the loneliest, most miserable men you can ever find on the planet. First of all, there's no traditional society that would ever encourage a man to talk down and denigrate a woman. Never. If anything, there was even sacrifices and punishments. Any man who tried to downgrade, to denigrate a woman, even by trying to get her pregnant, which is what a lot of men are doing now for control. They'll get you pregnant so that you don't have another child. Another thing they're doing right now out of complete desperation, they'll throw acid in your face so that no other man will look at you. If they cannot even take rejection, because the world has rejected them so bad that they can no longer take rejection. Not even from a woman. They can't take a no. They have to, they write CVs. They write, men are writing, or should I say, people are writing, people are applying for jobs, not getting called for jobs. And then they take it out on their wives and their girlfriends, society, children. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe at all. This is the reason why we have something, like what's going on in the US, with those things that people don't want to discuss, and I don't want to discuss it here in my video, but like the e-files. Why would anyone want to defile a child? Why would anybody go and commit acts of bestiality? Who does those acts of bestiality if it's not men? Is it not men, guys? Is it not men who are committing those acts of bestiality with animals? Huh? That goes to show that nobody is safe around men anymore. A man who is truly successful will never be interested in denigrating a woman. And success does not mean being a billionaire. It doesn't mean money. I used to tell my friends, stop chasing men with money. Don't chase men with money. But it doesn't mean I'm also saying chase men who are poor. No. Don't chase men who are poor. Don't chase men because of their money. Chase a man because of who he is. If you like a man and you know that he's a good man, there's no reason why you should not put out your interest to him. There's no reason, guys. All that is lies. All those things that we have been taught are lies, complete lies. Yeah? Just to keep you subjugated so that you cannot approach another man. Let me tell you, there are some men who are very shy. There are some men who will be afraid even to approach you. Not because they don't like you, but because they are afraid of offending you. And what I can say is that even giving them a smile, give them a smile, be nice to them, being kind to them, being nice to them, encouraging them along. That's okay. Yeah, women are everywhere waiting for good men. Women are just waiting for good men to see them, to find them. I myself know so many lovely people, lovely women, great women, lovely young women, older women also, like myself, who were not lucky to find, who are not fortunate to find a partner. but don't want to be with a partner who's going to denigrate them, who's going to look at them as old material, as stuff to be tossed in the dustbin. Because let me tell you what, this manosphere is going to break marriages. It really will. It really will. It is encouraging men to view women who are over 30 as rubbish, and to go for young kids, to go for children. I can call them children because a child who is 18, even if you're 18 because the law said you're 18, you're still very young. Even as a woman, you're very young. Why is it that society does not allow or encourage men to get married at 18, but would happily encourage a girl to get married at 18? Discrimination, nothing else, just discrimination. You take that photo. So we've come to the end of our walk. I'd love to hear your views, guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this issue. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think about the manosphere? Do you think men are right to behave the way they are? Do you think women are right to stop wanting to be in relationships with men because of this manosphere, because, not to have children for men? Do you think, that, where do you think this conversation is going, guys? Where do you think it's going? Yeah? Where do you think this conversation is going, people? Yeah? Because for one, I have a real concern that we are going the wrong direction. Things are not going well. Things are not going well, and things will not go well. And the worst thing is, guess who's going to be the biggest loser? Children, nature, children. Children are going to be the biggest loser. Kids, first of all. Then when the kids are no longer born anymore, it's going to be women who are going to be the biggest losers. Because we're going to lose our protection. We're going to lose our protection, guys. We will. Today the sun is out and it's looking so nice, and it's actually quite cloudy, to be honest. You look at the clouds up there, you can see. But I'm really happy about this camera, though. It's really good. The only thing is that I lost my stick. I used to have a very good gimbal, and unfortunately it was destroyed, so I can no longer use it. So the picture will be a bit shaky. I won't be so smooth. I think you're still enjoying the walk. Yeah, so this is Mo's Lifestyles. Thank you so much for watching. Please engage, share my videos. I think if you have something important to discuss or to talk about, people should just, engage. You guys just talk. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Yeah, so this is Mo's Lifestyles. I'm in Nairobi. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. Cheers.